Hi, this is Carrie Brownstein.
This is DJ Premier.
This is Darren Aronofsky.
You got the Russo right here.
Rose McGowan.
Radiohead.
Aisha Tyler.
Tribe Called Quest. Fred Armisen.
Prince Paul.
Javier Munoz. Seth Meyers.
Tracy Cosmos.
Flying Lotus.
Hi, we're Chaim, and you're listening to the Talkhouse Podcast.
What's up? Welcome back to the Talkhouse Podcast. My name is Elia Einhorn. I am your host. Today I'm joined by
Annie Fell, Associate Editor.
And we have a very, very cool show for you today. Our guests on this episode are Angel Olsen and one of her favorite new artists, Nick Russo, who releases music under the name Dick Stusso. Now, listeners, when I get an email saying that Angel Olsen is a huge fan of this relatively new, still somewhat obscure singer-songwriter and wants to record a Talkhouse Podcast episode with him, first of all, my reaction is cool. I'm in. I love Angel. Let's do this. Then I checked out the new Dick Stusso record and said, fuck yes, let's make this happen.
Now, Angel Olsen probably needs no introduction at this point in her career, but if you need a little refresher, over the last 7 years, she's released a handful of albums and EPs that have earned critical acclaim and a fan base around the world.
She really is one of the preeminent singer-songwriters of our time.
And you can totally tell that on her last studio LP, which was 2016's My Woman, which was also one of my favorite records of that year.
So good.
I also really loved last year's Phases, which was a sort of odds and ends collection of covers, B-sides, and demos.
She is such a talent.
Even the music of hers that hit the cutting room floor at one point is still basically flawless.
Totally. Listeners, check out the Phases track, Sweet Dreams.
I love you most when I first found love in myself, and I'll give it all to you when I first find it in myself, and the time will come for everyone to know.
Now, listeners, Nick Russo had sailed under my radar. He'd sailed under most people's radar, but not A&R extraordinaire Angel Olsen's. I'm not sure where Angel first heard his music, but once she was so hyped on it, she dropped him a note through Instagram, parenthetically, love that, and played a show with him in Asheville and told us she wanted to talk to him on the podcast. I checked him out, and he is such a character. He's an Oakland-based songwriter. It turns out his father is a sax player who played with the Doobie Brothers, played with Tower of Power, played with Huey Lewis. Now, Nick is less schooled. He goes for this haunted, bluesy sound. His lyrics are really dark and sometimes darkly funny. To me, there's a little Handsome Family in there, a little Nick Cave. Sometimes he even stretches it, and I hear echoes of Beck. Having said that, the guy is 100% Dick Stusso.
So he self-recorded his 2015 debut LP, Nashville Dream Sings the Blues, but he took a different approach on his recent album, In Heaven.
Right. Now, the crazy backstory to In Heaven is he'd recorded 75% of the record, a version of the record, I should say at this point, on a tape machine that was then burgled from his apartment. So he started again with producer Greg Ashley at the helm and recorded a whole new version of the record in an old disused church. Let's take a listen to that record's track, Well Acquainted.
People are out there doing what it is they do. You and I wonder what it is we should.
The two caught up last month by phone. Nick from his home in Oakland, and Angel at her brand new house in Asheville, North Carolina. And they cover a lot of ground.
Angel shares a ton about the direction she's taking on her next LP, which I'm so stoked for.
Yes.
She's already started writing it. Heads up, things are not going to sound like what fans may be used to.
Annie, I am super, super psyched about this.
I can't wait.
We also hear about the pluses and minuses, the benefits and drawbacks of playing shows solo versus with your full band.
We hear about Angel's plan for what she'll do for work if music, quote, goes to shit.
I don't think that's going to happen
No.
for her. And they get into the heart of that age-old question. How much does an artist follow their own muse versus giving the fans what they know and love? We also hear about talking too much on stage.
The earliest days of their music careers.
And the superstar producer that Angel just worked with out in LA. Should we roll the tape?
Roll it.
Hello,
Hi. How's it going? Haven't talked to you in a little while.
I know. It's going all right. How's it going with you?
Good. I wanted to ask you, I wrote down some questions because I'm not a journalist and I didn't do any research on you because I just figured we would just catch up.
Sounds good.
Okay. I just wanted to know, how was the rest of the tour after you left Asheville?
It was good. Interesting for me. I've never been to the East Coast touring with the band or Canada. Everything's new experience, lots of short drives and that kind of thing. It's interesting being at this stage with the group that I'm in.
How long have they been working with you?
I think it's been like 2 years now.
Did they play on Nashville Dreams?
The first thing, no, that was just all me. And that was sort of
Wow.
put a band together after the fact because people were interested in seeing something live, and I had not had any plans of doing anything other than putting out a tape.
Amazing.
So it's been kind of playing catch up. I feel like we kind of skipped a stage of being like a local band and playing a lot of local shows. I feel like we've played outside of where we live more than we've played here in Oakland.
That's great.
Yeah. That's also kind of weird. I feel like I maybe made a quick jump into something that we weren't quite prepared for.
When I was playing music in Chicago, I mostly, I would play shows there like twice a week. And I never went on tour for my music. I put out a tape, similar situation. But I was working as a backup singer with Bonnie Prince Billy at the time.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know that people listened to my music. And when I booked my first tour, people came out to shows and I was like, this is weird. I guess I should get a band together. But I'd never had any experience like touring my own music outside of Chicago.
Wow. How long was it from when you first started putting out music till when you started touring? Behind your own music? I
put my first tape out in it was either 2010 or 2011. And then kind of abandoned that. I mean, I put it out and it got picked up by Pitchfork and some other places, Aquarian Drunkard or something, and a bunch of other things. But then I just worked for Will for a really long time. And I just, I didn't know that there was a group of people listening to it. But it was a really hard thing for me to let go of the way I played stuff by myself to like allowing other people to kind of like change it in a band setting. Was that weird for you working with these people, or do you have to kind of like let them play in the way that they interpret it? Or are you kind of like, can you play this guitar line this way?
A little bit. I mean, that's the whole ethos of the band is sort of everything's pretty laissez-faire, and it's as however it comes out, that's how it is, and how I haven't spent a lot of time trying to struggle to keep things sounding the way I recorded them, or it's just sort of whatever the right vibe.
Yeah, like things develop and change as you play them live with a group of people anyway.
Yeah, and it's sort of, I mean, I'm not the greatest musician, so I kind of rely on just being like a failed comedy.
Well, I disagree with you there, but
thanks. But yeah, I feel like it doesn't really matter so much how or the notes that we're playing or what we're playing, as long as the energy of it comes across live.
Yeah. Do you think you'll ever play another solo show since the one in Asheville?
I mean, yeah, I'd be happy to. I feel like, once again, that's harder for me. Just not necessarily being a disciplined musician, but as a, like I said, sort of a like failed comedy entertainer routine or something. I like aspects of playing solo, but when it goes bad, it can go really bad. Where if I have a backing band, at least they, can help me. I know that you started off playing solo, and then, I mean, mainly, and then you were playing with a band. I know you've been playing solo again. What are the differences?
When I play with the band, I feel like the kind of music that I made, especially recently, is really upbeat and like, it's got like a little bit of a pop thing going on. And I feel like I had to kind of dance and be a character and like get people into the show. And I don't know, like, I think I really tried with the last record to to kind of like expand the sound and make it less of a singer-songwriter thing and more of a an example to show myself and fans that I could write other songs other than like sad girl songs. But now I'm kind of like missing them. And I also really miss just being able to interact with the audience and be a real person instead of having to like be interesting looking, you know? Like I really like the intimate setting of playing live solo because it is scary and you are so much more in front of everyone, but I just end up talking a lot. I end up talking a lot.
The solo?
No. When I'm solo, that I end up chatting more and like checking in with people and kind of talking about the catalog of songs that I have and talking about like how I was 22 and thought that things were really bad and I was writing these songs super like pretentiously, and then now I'm like living in my 30s and kind of, you know, it's just funny looking back to my old writing that's so serious. And now I've like lived through harder things since then. But talking about it with people and kind of opening a discussion with people happens more in my solo shows than it would with the band, because otherwise if I'm with the band and I talk too much, I think the band's like, okay, come on, let's keep things moving along. We're all standing here waiting for you.
For sure. My band will yell at me to shut up if I talk too much.
Yeah.
But they're usually in the right when it comes to me. I don't
know about that.
Are you mostly writing right now? Or, I mean, I know you have tours here.
I've been writing a lot throughout the year. I haven't been writing lately. I can't write when there's chaos. I just recently bought a house, so I've been kind of dropping off. But now I've got my house in order and I'm feeling a lot better. I did some stuff in LA recently where I got to play guitar for other people's music.
That's fun.
And I met up with Mark Ronson, which is funny.
Oh, wow.
But I had never met him, but I worked with him recently on something, and he brought out this pedal called the Scrambler. Have you ever heard of this pedal?
Maybe, but I'm not familiar. I'm pretty dumb when it comes to gear.
It's like a fuzz. It's like a really old vintage fuzz pedal. It sounds really good. And at the end of this session, he sent me one.
Oh, very nice.
And so I'm really looking forward to playing it on this upcoming tour. And just kind of like, once the house is finished, like, and I'm rehearsing and stuff, I mess around with that. But yeah, it's been a while since I've had everything set up to record and do demos. But I've been getting a little folder together for the fall. So hopefully I'll have something going next year. Nice. I don't know. Are you working on anything new?
I'm starting to try to. After all my stuff got stolen.
Yeah, so okay.
For my home recording setup.
So was it just your computer, or was it your tape machine too?
I had a really crappy kind of Porta Studio digital and some like not the greatest equipment. I had a computer, but I wasn't really using that for recording anything. I just kind of had like backup stuff on it.
Yeah.
But I just had everything set up in the living room, and somebody came in and grabbed all that stuff.
How long after that happened did you talk to Greg about doing the record again?
I think it was like a week after, but I had already talked to him because I had 2 songs that I wanted him to record like a full band.
I see. Do you have demos from that earlier record, or I guess it was all on your computer?
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple things that I emailed to people, but you know, there's really rough, weird mixes of things.
Well, I have to say, I love the way that he was a big part of recording that record, but I also love the earlier record that you did that you played every part on. And I know you used a drum machine for a lot of the songs, which I really like. I think more people, I think it's fun to do that. I mean, my drummer would be mad at me if I did that, but
I mean, sometimes what is it? Necessity is the mother of invention, which is
I just think sometimes
just a drum machine.
Sometimes a drum machine can add a little bit of like a vibe, a lo-fi vibe that you just can't get with like an actual person. Would you say you co-produced with Greg Ashley on this recent record? How involved was he in helping you?
I mean, yeah, I definitely co-produced. His studio that he does analog and only analog, and he kind of has one way of doing things. and he knows what to do with his setup, and he's been doing it for a long time. So you're kind of working with him. You're getting like a bit of what he does.
Yeah.
And so I would have ideas that, different ways I wanted things to sound, but ultimately working in his studio, you get like a lot of Greg involved in any recording. So, which I liked a lot because it brought a lot to those recordings that, my home recording stuff didn't have.
Was it just you and Greg back and forth playing parts for this recent record, or who played on that? Was it all you, or?
It was like a combination of me and the band would come in, and some of the songs they didn't even know. I would just like tell them to, Nick to play drums for like 3 minutes and just like play one beat.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now hit a cymbal here, and then, would layer everything on top of that. Because learning how to work in like an actual studio, I've never really had experience. I've just always done like a sort of constant overdub layering at home.
Yeah.
And
the thing about I feel like that working in a studio, I always practice with a band beforehand, so I'm not wasting my money.
Yeah.
We're kind of like, we already know the songs, and then when we're in the studio, we're not just like, I wonder what part we should do now, like.
Yeah, do you have a clear cut, like, all of the parts and how everything's going to go as soon as you go into the studio, or do you?
For this last record, I got together with the drummer and Seth Kaufman, who lives here in Asheville. He's in a band called Floating Action, which I really think you'd like him. The way he does a lot of like home recording stuff, and he records everything on Cakewalk.
On the what?
On Cakewalk.
What is Cakewalk?
It's like a really old program.
Oh, that's nice. You find one that works, stick with it.
But he does a lot of he's really influenced by dub, and he added a lot of textures and stuff to the record that I don't know that it would sound the same without him being involved in it.
That's cool.
I had been working with the same for other people for a few years, so Seth was new to the band, and we all met up in Asheville and went over the songs for like 10 days, and then had like a couple days off and flew to LA and worked on it there, and did about 18 days in the studio, 8-hour days. And yeah, it was really fun. But we just like would play everything and learn it and talk about it, and then I would record and say like what I liked or what sometimes Stuart would come up with a guitar part that was like strange or not strange, but like more of like a dancey thing, and I'd be like, oh, this isn't that kind of song, and I'd have to like play the line on the piano or something. I'm not the kind of person who writes every single thing for my record, so though on this next one I hope to do more self-production and to write more guitar parts and piano parts and organ parts and stuff like that. It's just always been so time-consuming, and I like what other people bring to the table. But yeah, I think most of the time we learn everything and rehearse it so we can play it, perform it, and then kind of listen back to it and see what's missing in the studio instead of it being like coming up with parts in the studio.
For sure, yeah. The kind of traditional method of recording.
Yeah, I'd really like to get into learning how to record onto tape, just like self-demo stuff. But
yeah, like a reel-to-reel or something.
Yeah, one day when I have plenty of time,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know much about it myself.
When did you begin recording, just like recording for yourself in general?
Sometime like when I was in high school, and it was all just kind of joke songs. And a lot of times I would just have friends over, and it would just like put a mic in a room and just see what kind of songs came out, and they were all stupid. And just it would have tapes and tapes of just really stupid stuff. Like just hours of I don't know what we were doing.
Do you still have the tapes?
No. I think I recorded them. I recorded over all of them when I got really serious, and then started being like, I need to make, sort of serious, depressing songwriter type stuff.
And where are those tapes now?
Also recorded over when I decided I just need mixtapes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was pretty much tried to burn all the evidence of anything that I did previously. Have you been playing?
I haven't been playing since that show we played together.
When does your tour start?
It starts, so I'm gonna go to LA August 27th or something like that, and meet some producers and just have chats and coffee and that sort of thing, and just try really hard to figure it out. But yeah, I'm playing a bunch of really cool spots along the West Coast, like Big Sur and Sonoma, and then I'm playing San Francisco. Mostly theaters or like barns or like, just like cool spots. And then I'm playing a festival in Vancouver, Seattle, Portland, Denver, Austin. And then I go to Marfa. And I'm like in Texas for like a week. And then I'm playing the East Coast. And then I come home. And I kind of just like keep going from there. I have about 10 days off. And then my friend Josh, who plays drums with me, will come to town theoretically. And then we'll go over new material, and then I'll fly to LA and we'll rehearse it with Emily. And then I don't know, holidays and such, and planning another record. So I'm really excited about the next record. I want it to be stripped back and really different than this big band sound that I was creating, which might be annoying for some people, but I think it'll be fun to kind of like just go back to basics in some ways.
Yeah. The last thing you put out, the Phases, kind of spans like a gamut of sounds that you've had.
Yeah, and it's kind of in a lot of ways, I feel like it was a good test to see like what my audience, I know it sounds silly, but like what people who listen to my music like listen for. And also doing these solo shows, I was a little worried that most of my fans are just from the last record and that like people aren't familiar with my other stuff. And I was mostly playing my older music, my older songs. So it was interesting to see how many people were devoted to hearing those songs and knew them, and I don't know. Sometimes I'm just like at the grocery store and I'm walking around and I forget that I can do this and that I've been doing this for a living and just with my life and with my time, because I don't really think about it even now. And I know it sounds privileged or whatever, but I don't really go home every night and think, I'm Angel Olsen and I write music for a living. Like that's not what I do. Like I'm just like going to shows and hanging out with my friends here and going to dinner and working on stuff. And I don't know. I know I do think about it because it's my life, but it's such a weird thing that I am able to do it and solely do it right now. And I had so many like odd jobs for years until this point. So that part of me doesn't just go away, even though I don't need those odd jobs anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Has that point been relatively, like basically when the last record came out?
Yeah.
That you kind of felt like you had gotten to another level of...
Well, right after I came out with Halfway Home, I had a year left, or like 6 more months in Chicago, and I'd been living off of money I'd saved from working with Bonnie Prince Billy and the Kyra Gang and working at a coffee shop. And then I moved to Asheville, and I didn't have very much money in my bank account. And I was like, shit, I have to like figure this out. But immediately, as soon as I was here, I recorded a record and was on tour and making a little bit of cash, So it was kind of nice. Like, even when I worked for Will, I didn't have to work necessarily. I just in case something happened or I wasn't asked back on a tour or something, I always worked at like cafes and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I wonder what I would do. Yeah, if this all goes to shit, like what I would do.
Well, has it changed your approach at all? Because it is your living now. Do you feel more pressure?
I mean, no. I feel like there's more pressure to stay more myself than to be so aware of how I'm marketed. That's the hardest part, is like knowing more and more about how you are marketed and like what people like about your music and like what's safe and what feels right for what's safe with your label and all the people in your community. And even if those people aren't pressuring, they're not, I mean, my label's been really good to me, but I've also been successful. So I don't know if it's the same case for everybody, but I think the hardest part is when I'm doing well kind of letting go of what musically works and not thinking about that and just writing stuff.
Yeah.
When I wrote the last record, I thought it was good, but I wasn't focusing on being overly wordy. And I'd always all of my songs up until that point had been really lyric based and overly wordy. And I think I really wanted to make sure that I was allowing myself to sing more and make more music with my stuff and allow more guitar solos to happen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But now I'm kind of like I feel like I'm going back and appreciating my earlier work after playing these solo shows and wanting to kind of tap back into that part of myself. Though it's just me. It's not me trying to make something funny or glittery or whatever, It's just my writing.
Yeah.
And also, I think it would be really fun to learn how to produce other people and myself more and more. I feel like I have a lot of ideas for recording. I just don't know the language, and I don't understand the programs. But the same thing goes with music videos. Like, I'm not someone who understands the programming that's involved in editing a music video, but I can sit there and look at something and say, that doesn't work, or that works. And I feel confident about it because I think you do need a musical mind to do those things.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I feel like I think it would be really empowering on a lot of levels. I don't want to be like too weird about it, but specifically as a woman to understand the language of engineering because people just try to tell me that I'm wrong a lot.
Oh, geez. Well, yeah, I know next to nothing about recording. I only know how to do it wrong in my apartment.
But you recorded your previous record.
Yeah, and I just kind of, have faked it whenever I talk to anybody, that I pretend like I know what I'm doing.
Well, it sounds incredible. I think it sounds great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean...
That was part of, I was leery of going to a studio just because just to show my lack of knowledge for any sort of recording stuff. Yeah. And I just sort of pretend. It doesn't
sound like you did every part. It doesn't feel like calculated in that way that so many recordings like that are. It feels like it's so loose that it feels like a bunch of different people are in the room with you. I don't know.
Yeah, well, little schizo. The only thing that I ever liked about recording was just being able to like have a multi-track and do sonic layering. I watched something about Tony Visconti talking about recording Heroes with David Bowie and about how they recorded it. And it was just sort of like they recorded everything with all the effects on it, had like a bass track, and then would just layer whatever the track needed after that and just be like, you know what, it needs this kind of sound. And then somebody play a tambourine or somebody like click spoons together. And I feel like that was the only thing that I ever was any good at or liked doing recording wise, was just doing that. But in my apartment where I'm like banging a pot together, whereas they're doing that in like Berlin.
Do you work with the click track a lot if you're using this drum machine, or when you did that record? I mean,
I should. That was when I was being good. And when I'm being bad, I don't, and I'm not a great timekeeper. So that's a whole nother, like, just spend hours trying to mimic the out of time playing that I have.
It's really weird for me to work with a click track. I'm not that kind of person, but I will do it if it's necessary. I've never made a record that's like click track, layer on top of layer. The exact thing that I think you were describing, because I don't know. Sometimes I listen, like when you're describing people just adding a bunch of stuff on top of things, it makes me feel like sometimes I listen to that being done in a studio and I'm like, you don't need all this shit. You just need like 3 things. And
a lot of times you don't, yeah.
For me, I always just add what I feel like I hear, and then I carve out sections of dropouts or space in between, like once I'm done, But some people just keep adding more and more shit, and I'm like, you're wasting time. And I know that in the end they mix it and mix it and mix it and they carve it out, but it's like, if you just knew already that you wouldn't need all that shit, then you wouldn't be spending all this time doing that. You would just be carving already. I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, definitely.
But I also think it would be interesting to do like something really entirely different, working on a synth record or working in a situation with other people where it is click based and it's just all like blocks of sound. That would be fun.
Oh, like computer, and you can just like edit is that?
Yeah, and like on tour, like in the van, I'll do stuff like that if I'm bored. But it's hard for me as a lyricist to sing and then do a click track. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I've never like recorded using a computer. It's amazing what people can do. I remember recording with somebody and just like record a guitar part, and they're like, "Oh, we'll just edit that out," or like, "Oh, you rushed a little bit. We'll just pull it back, and now you're going to be on the beat." And I was just like, "This is bizarre."
When did you start playing guitar? Speaking of guitar,
I guess was I like 15 maybe? My dad's a saxophone player, and he wanted me to play a horn, but he wasn't very pushy about it, and to his disdain, picked up like a rummage sale 2-string acoustic guitar and like learned to play a Nirvana song or something. And I just kept playing it, and then he ended up buying me a guitar, even though he was horrified to find out that I wanted to be a guitar player.
Well, at least he was encouraging you to be a musician. That my parents, a lot of my parents were inspiring me to continue, but a lot of people don't want their kids to grow up to be musicians,
Yeah. When did you start playing guitar?
When I was like 15 or 16. Well, I haven't really come as far along as you have. Not in the same style at all, anyway.
Oh, come on.
But I'm working on it. I got my scrambler. I'm going to learn some Black Sabbath covers. I really want to learn Paranoid and do like a slowed down emo version of Paranoid.
Yeah, have you been doing more covers?
I wanted to learn Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really played music in a while because I've been moving, and it's such a daunting experience moving into my own house. It feels really weird and really like, I don't know, it brings up all this stuff that you think a home is, or maybe it's just the way that I think about things. Sometimes I overthink things. I think in symbols when I should just like be like, that is just what that is. It's not representative of your entire life.
Are you thinking of like having a recording area of your new home?
Yeah, I got to get some rugs. I want to get a card table down there. I got a mini fridge, throw back a couple beers, have some people over for some jams. I already know there's a house across the street on the corner that has band practice a lot. So I know I won't be the only one making noise on the street.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to my drummer coming out here and playing some music. I just haven't been in the mode to get into it yet because I've just been decorating my house. Like, I don't know, it's such a weird thing to do. Such a weird phase, but...
So is that it, when you're writing music, do you go through phases of like, I'm going to sit down and write a group of songs, or does it just kind of happen?
Sometimes I'll just be like in my car or something. I mean, it's happened the same way since I had worked at cafes. Like I would write a song on a receipt in the middle of taking someone's order. But like same thing will happen if I'm on my way to see a friend, which can make me like a friend that says I'll be there in 20 minutes and I'll be there in 40. But I will sometimes get an idea on the way to do something and I'll write it down and then record it and then go back to it later.
You start like with lyrics. Does that mean jotting it down, or do you have...
Sometimes I'll start with a few lyrics, and other times if I'm home, I'll write it all at once. Like I'll just play a melody on guitar and I'll be thinking of something and it'll fit right into it. And a lot of times if I go on a really long trip that's like really fun or reflective, I'll come home and write a bunch of songs. But I've got like 10 or 11 that I've been working on this year, and one or two of them are like 8 minutes long. So, but they're really different than the last record that I released. They're, you heard some of them when we played that show together.
Yeah, they're great.
There's one song that's like 3 songs in one, and it's just kind of meandering. It doesn't have choruses, and I think it'll be an experimental record. But I'm excited to revisit those things, and I still want to make a version of the record that's with a band sound. I just have to figure out how to pull that off. So
this the latest record you're working on?
Yeah, because I want to do both. Putting out so much work at a certain point, in my position, I kind of feel like I have to, because I have backup singers on the last record, it's like, once I come out with this version of songs, sure, I play that record, but I got to play the old songs too, because people get mad when you don't play the old songs. But when I play the old songs, it's like, well, then I got to have a band that's like the last band setup. You know, like I have to think about it in all these ways, and it just gets really like, I think I'll be a postman. You know, I'm just like, I don't know if I want to like, but you know, everything that you make, especially if you're doing well, it would be nice to just like move forward and just play the new stuff. But I know that people will get really upset, and I don't think that's very nice.
Yeah.
But I just would like to play some shows that are just new material and just do that. But
yeah, it seems like playing solos, that's a good way to do.
Yeah, it's a good break from like the stigma and the like whole character creation that happened with the last record. It's a really nice release from that, which was good and I feel good about, but like I miss playing more intimate shows. And so part of the reason why I want to make a record that's experimental like this is because I miss that, and I miss showing off more of my writing, I guess. Anyway, that's where I'm at. I definitely like, I won't say like I'm done playing with a band. I just figuring out how to do both has been kind of tricky because my work spans from lyric-based solo stuff to big band sound, and finding a way to continue on both paths is kind of weird for me.
Yeah, I kind of understand. It's obviously different for me, but I like when I played with you in Asheville, I don't think I played any songs that I played with the band because it was sort of like I have this chance to just do something that's totally different from, you know, there's songs that work with the bands and songs that seem to, you know, work better solo.
Yeah.
Or work better presented in a different way. I've always had a kind of struggle between sometimes I write songs at home that I you know, would like to listen to at home, but I don't know that I personally would like to see a band playing.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel the need to have a few more rockers in the set because I feel like that's sort of people want to see something like that when coming to see a rock and roll band. But just trying to find a nice balance between the two.
Have you ever considered doing like a couple solo when you play with the current band?
Yeah, we actually, I mean, we kind of do that. There's a couple songs I just play by myself. And
do you play keyboards on some of the songs?
No, I'm pretty lousy at keyboards.
Well, if you ever need a keyboardist, just call me up. I'm just across the country, but you know, my rate is low.
Really? All right. Well, cool.
Well, I look forward to hearing you guys play someday.
Yeah.
Or you think you'll ever come back to Asheville?
Yeah, would love to. We'll see how it goes. You know, I got to write some more hits, and then we'll bring them to Asheville for sure.
All right. Well, I appreciate you doing this with me.
My pleasure.
Sorry if I talk too much about myself.
No, I'm sorry if I didn't talk enough, if I sound like an idiot. But I am one, so sorry.
Me too. Let's both be idiots.
Angel, Nick, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
I have a hard time believing that either of them are actually idiots.
Agreed. Listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, check out our recent talk between Japanese Breakfast Michelle Zauner and Alex Cameron. Angel Olsen's featured on Alex's new record.
Today's talk was recorded by Kenny Harrington in Asheville and Tarek Fauda in Oakland.
Our producer is Mark. I have a new baby and I love him, but fuck, I need some sleep. Yoshizumi.
Our beautiful new theme song is composed and performed by The Range.
You can find us on all the socials at Talkhouse, and make sure to subscribe to the podcast for upcoming episodes with Mac DeMarco and Neil and Liam Finn, Lowe's Alan Sparhawk with Death Cab for Cutie's Ben Gibbard, Tierra Whack with Namdi Ogbanaya, and so many more coming up. Till next week.
See ya.